What value do you give to transparency? How transparent should a leader be? And if you're a leader yourself, how transparent are you? Peter's got a great story to tell where they were digging into transparency in one organization.
You may not be surprised to learn that I believe in what I call professional transparency. By professional transparency, I mean being open. I actually believe in being radically open about what you think and what you intend. And I believe that a good leader is able to describe not only what he or she understands is happening in the business, but also how they think and feel about it. And that they can do so in a way that you understand their disposition, their intention quite openly, as well as what you're dealing with. And if you have that kind of leadership, it enables great decision making because you understand the context of the leadership, not only what they're thinking, but how they're thinking about it. You're not surprised. You feel you're able to participate and have a good idea that the decisions you make will be well aligned with what they have in mind. So I have described in the past working with a leadership team in Trinidad and Tobago called BG, an oil and gas company, subsequently great growth, subsequently bought by Shell. And I talked about working with the leadership team, and I also talked about working with Andy Carmichael with a process he was piloting there on a planning process over 8 years that then dropped down to a scheduling process over 3 months and then dropped down to the daily delivery. It was a delightful, open, what are we trying to do? What are we hoping to do? How are we planning to do it? 2 years out, we're committed with the money and we're delivering it. And what do I have to do to deliver it? It was wonderful. The leadership got it completely, and having presented their plans to each other, they not only improved their plans, which had structural weaknesses in them, but also used them. And they were the great center of conversation for Derek with each of the leaders. He's what I call a circular thinker. He would go round and round. For him, having the plan on one page was perfect. Jane, how are you doing on this project? How are you doing on that bit? Will that be ready on time? Where are you on this?
Yeah.
And if Jane wants to add something, Jane,
Put it on the plan.
If it's not on the plan, we're not talking about it.
Yeah. So it was the plan, but also the talk. The plan was living. Derek and maybe others were talking and updating. So it was a living process. Sometimes you kind of think of plan, it gets on a Excel spreadsheet and then it's dead. You know, it sounds like a very living process around the planning.
Yeah. Clear intentions and with good enough opportunities there for the future of the business. Having got the team there is, of course, a larger organization. And it's surprising how difficult it is to find out from leaders what they're planning. If you happen to be in the right meeting at the right time, you might get a better view of what's going on. But it's not often shared that openly. I had tried in other situations what I would call radical openness. I'm thinking now of trade union and management. I'm thinking of serious offenders in prison and so on. Like, by professional openness, I don't mean you don't need to know about my children or my wife or something, but you do need to know my thinking about the business. So Derek, who was very willing, proposed, and I agreed with him, this idea that we should share the 8-year plans with every employee in the business. By now, we were probably 300 people, something like that. And Derek had done the usual town halls where the leaders get up and announce or say how they're doing. But this was different. The idea was that we'd blow up the plans in large form and stick them on the wall. And in the room, milling around with their coffee and enjoying themselves, would be 300 employees, all for the first time really getting a clear picture of what was going on.
Yeah.
And they'd walk up to one set of plans and say, I don't understand, what's that OG project or whatever it might be? And they would explain it. And in the explanation, of course, is where you realize what you're doing. You find the strengths of what you're doing, and you also find the question marks and so on. So there's this wonderful scrutinizing,
Yeah.
and they knew that we had encouraged people to say what they liked and what they found very interesting and helpful to know and so on, and also to challenge what they didn't understand or wondered why that was happening. Why are you buying 3 different lots of computers rather than one bigger one? Like, wouldn't it pay to do that or something?
I have a picture in my head of this event, and it's very different from what people might usually think about as transparency. Whereas you say you have a town hall and each leader presents their plan, and there's, 299 people in the room apart from the person presenting, and none of them want to put their hand up or say anything because it's all a bit awkward. And, am I going to sound stupid? And should I have known that already? I don't know. So often people would think of that was transparency, but this is a much more dynamic, involved participation. Yeah.
It was. And
Yeah.
I, of course, had changed myself from planning is boring to, wow, planning is really interesting. Seeing the kind of lively participation of people, the kind of questions they were asking, and also the endeavor on the plan owners and their teams to be honest and open about their thinking and say, well, we haven't really thought that through yet, but what do you think? And many employees had experience in other companies they could talk about and so on. And you could say, well, there's quite a connection, isn't there, between what you're doing here and what they're doing over there.
Yeah. So in an earlier story you talked about the leadership team sort of supporting and challenging each other's plans. Here you had an opportunity for the whole organization to support and challenge plans that were firmer, but still had the opportunity to make suggestions and input.
You can imagine if you were one of those employees and the part of the business you're working in has a big future and you can see it, how you feel about your career. I'm in a business that's expanding, which has really big ideas, and I'm part of it.
Yeah.
So,
and where they invite you along to have a say. Yeah.
Come and talk,
Seriously.
and I can add my thinking. And so I'm feeling like I've got a good job. I've definitely got a career here, and I can see where I might go and so on. And then others looking, saying, man, I'd far rather be working in that part of the business. That's what I actually would like to be doing. Now, I know where I am, but would there be openness to what background skills would I need to get involved in this bit of the business? And these really enjoyable conversations about opportunity, about possibility to contribute, and where I would like my career to go within this company. Some I heard more were our 2 divisions are so interrelated, interconnected. Can't we second groupings of people? Can't we second people for a few months here and there to really get to know each other and understand how to do it all?
Yeah.
And although it was a one-day event, for me it was an extremely fulfilling event. What I would say is we achieved a level of openness that activated the energy, the confidence, optimism, and the participation of all the employees. It was a wonderful event, I thought. That's what I'd call a dialogic organization.
Yeah.
It's quite hard to work right through an organization to make it a dialogic organization. And this inspired me, work we did later where we had 12, 13,000 people in an organization. But here with 300, we made a good mark. And these plans were all subsequently made available on their internal intranet, some controls on it, but so that people could scrutinize them later and have more detailed conversations about the relationship between what they were preparing and what other people were doing. And these were continually updated and available to everybody.
It's a story of creating a dialogic organization through planning and transparency being the kind of route in. In other situations, people will be able to hear other stories where we talk about creating dialogic organizations through different paths in. And I should also say that people can find in our podcast the earlier episodes where you talk about this same business and other work that you did with the leader and the leadership team. So you can see us on YouTube or listen to us on any podcast provider. Thank you.
Thank you.